Hi, I'm Mina Malik Hussain and you're watching The Coffee Table, and today it's all about typhoid. I know it sounds daunting and it sounds really odd to kind of sound so excited about a waterborne terrible disease. But the thing is that these days the government is running a wonderful vaccination campaign for typhoid. So we thought that it would be a good idea to have two doctors on the show, two pediatricians on the show, to tell us more about the disease itself and what this campaign means and the vaccines being used and why it's important for all of us to have a typhoid vaccination, because we feel like the more information there is out there, the less stress it is for parents and caretakers of kiddos. And it's not just something for children, it's for adults as well, because anybody can get typhoid. It's surprisingly and sadly, shockingly easy to get typhoid. But the good news is that there are ways around it that can protect you from it. We are so happy to be welcoming back on the show our chum, Dr. Naeem Zafar, who is a consultant pediatrician. He is so many things and he wears so many hats, but for the purposes of the show, I'd like to tell you that he is a member of the National Certification Committee for Polio Eradication and is a member of the Pakistan Pediatrics Association, which has been working very closely in conjunction with the government on this typhoid campaign. And joining us over the internet, I did not say internet, please appreciate my refraining from making uncle jokes on this show, is Dr. Yasser Masood, who is a consultant pediatrician and neonatologist at Shifa International Hospital. He's been certified by the Royal College of Pediatrics in London and has been a former consultant at St. Mary's Hospital in Manchester. Doctors, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's lovely to have you back, Dr. Saab. So, I want to pick your brains, which is what we are doing on the show. So, let's start from the beginning. And what is typhoid?
As you just said, typhoid is a waterborne disease. It's a bacterial disease, and it's a deadly disease.
Oh.
So anyone who gets typhoid has more than a 1% chance of dying even in this century and even with all the treatments available.
Good gosh.
And it is easily preventable and it was easily treatable. Unfortunately, over the years, the bacteria have gotten used to the antibiotics.
Oh, no.
So initially from the susceptible bacteria, it went into the resistant bacteria, then the multiple resistant bacteria, now the extended bacterial resistance, and finally the very extended bacterial resistance, which means only probably 1 or 2 antibiotics are now working against it, which are extremely expensive and which are extremely toxic. That's
oh gosh, that sounds really dreadful because, one knows so many people who've had typhoid and usually people recover, but I didn't realize that it was deadly. And do you think it's deadly because it's become antibiotic resistant?
Initially, it was deadly because it was not diagnosed early and it was not treated well. And it had a lot of complications.
Oh.
Complications in the intestines, complications in the lungs, complications in the brain and others.
What? All of that?
If it is not treated, of course. But now, even after treatment, if we do not have the resistant, because of the resistant strains, if we do not have the effective antibiotics, the disease goes on. So,
Quite
yes.
right. So, Dr. Yasser, how does one diagnose typhoid? Like, how do you know you have it?
So the symptoms are fairly common, which we see in other illnesses like other common bacterial and viral illnesses.
Okay.
But usually the clinical suspicion is when a child or a young infant or an adult has a long history of fever which is lasting for over a week, high-grade temperature, with other symptoms which could be abdominal pain, sometimes constipation, sometimes diarrhea. So there's a typical history of temperature along with other signs and symptoms, which in developing countries like Pakistan, we always suspect typhoid fever in anyone who is presenting with these signs. With these signs and symptoms. And unfortunately, even in 2021, we know that despite all the vaccines and all the treatments, there's still over 15 to 20 million cases of typhoid every year and over 150 to 200,000 deaths because of typhoid and its complications. So it's still a fairly common public health problem that we see as pediatricians in young children and adults.
So do you feel statistics are sort of for Pakistan or is it for developing countries generally?
The typhoid is a disease mainly of the developing countries. In developed countries, we only see typhoid in people who have traveled to the endemic areas.
Oh, okay.
But in developing countries, basically it's because of poor hygiene, poor sanitation. These are the two main factors which are responsible for that we're still seeing cases of typhoid. Because of better hygiene, better sanitation in developed countries, and of course because of the vaccination as well,
Yes.
which we're going to talk about today, that they have finally got rid of the typhoid. So they only see in people who have traveled to the endemic areas.
Quite right. So this is a two-pronged approach then. It means that if there is a dearth of vaccinated people, and then it is a sanitation issue. So what is the link between typhoid and sanitation? And with sanitation, we mean water and access to toilets and just generally hygiene.
Previously, the health department always thought that we were supposed to prevent diseases through treatments, through preventive measures. Now we have included another thing into it, which is water and sanitation into it.
Yes.
Because we
That's
see
a great acronym, you'd never forget it.
Yes, you can't. Because, and it's so, pertinent as well, because we have to wash away the diseases. So the water and sanitation becomes an integral part of our management and integral part of how we prevent the diseases.
Yes.
Now, the most important part is that the typhoid vaccine, the typhoid disease, it thrives in water. It is a waterborne disease. It also thrives in food. So,
because we're using water to cook food.
Exactly.
Oh.
And in fact, the initial cases, that came from eggs and from poultry and from other things. So if they are not cooked properly or if they are not hygienically prepared. And also one very important area is that people who have had typhoid, they can continue to shed the organism for a long period of time.
What? How long?
Years at times.
What?
So not all, but some of them. So even when you are treated and you are handling food, you can mix your typhoid into the food.
How? If you sneeze on it, or you haven't washed?
Unfortunately, no, it is the fecal-oral route. If you're not very careful at washing your hands after defecation. Sounds as...
It is so horrible. I'm not laughing because I'm being juvenile, but sometimes, just the thought of it is horrifying, is that it's fecal matter in water. But this is also so common in developing countries because a lot of times sewage pipes and water pipes are adjacent and old and things cross over.
Exactly. And not just that, even if you look at the areas, people are forced to drink unsafe water.
Yes.
So which is from the ponds, from the streams and from the others, which is not clean because people are dumping their excreta into it.
Yes. No, no, absolutely. Just digesting this fact. Yes, Dr. Yasser, you wanted to say something?
To what Dr. Naeem said, that hand hygiene and hand washing is so important preventive measure, along with vaccination and good sanitation, because we know that the route of transmission for typhoid fever is what we call is fecal-oral, which means that it is excreted in the stool. And if people are not washing their hands properly and then using the same hands either to prepare the food or to eat the food, then that's where the transmission goes on. That if people are eating those unhygienically prepared food, that's where the transmission comes in. So while we need to focus on vaccination, water and sanitation at the same time, we have seen that during the coronavirus pandemic, everyone is talking about hand hygiene, 20-second hand wash, and all those things. And so the same principle applies to typhoid fever as well, that if we want to prevent such a deadly waterborne disease, one of the main things that we need to do is good hand washing, good hand hygiene.
It's as simple
we need to teach our children that how important it is that every time they have been to the toilet, how to wash their hands properly. So this is something that I want to give a message today, that hand hygiene is as important as we saw in coronavirus to protect against typhoid fever.
Absolutely. And it's so simple. So do you feel that, Dr. Yasir, do you feel that typhoid is a disease that happens more in urban areas, or is it rural, or is it a bit of both? It's kind of evenly distributed.
It's a bit of both. Previously, it used to be more in rural areas because there was poor sanitation. But now, because we know that there's more and more population in urban areas as well, and even in urban areas, because these the housing and the sanitation and the water supplies is not very good. So now we are seeing in both urban and rural areas as well. So it's a combination, but it's a problem of the developing countries, unfortunately.
Yes.
Both
But
in
it's
urban
not-
and rural areas.
Yes, and also we should know that earlier we thought it was the disease of the summers.
Yes,
It's no
that's
more.
right. Before
Yes.
swimming season, you'd sort of
Yes.
go and get a shot.
So that's not true anymore. Because and it is now prevalent in all the seasons, all the time of the year. And also unfortunately, the urban slums are the most important areas. But we see it in every sector of the society,
Yes.
and even in the elitist of the areas as well. Because we are drinking from the same water source, we are using the same kind of hygiene practices, so it's all over.
We are washing our pots and pans with the same water. Even
Exactly.
if you're drinking sort of boiled or bottled. If you boil your water, does that kill typhoid germs?
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
It does.
So that's a good-
that was actually, that has been always used as one of the primary preventive things for this.
So two kind of easy ways to protect yourself from typhoid is to boil your water and to wash your hands.
Exactly.
And of course, be vaccinated.
The vaccination comes now, actually. Earlier, we were not very into the vaccinations for typhoid. We were into vaccinations for all diseases. But if you remember, the Pakistan expanded program of immunization never had typhoid in its injections.
Oh, why is that?
Because, again, number one, typhoid vaccines were not very effective.
Okay.
So, as I was telling you before the start of the program,
Yes.
the typhoid vaccine has also evolved.
Quite right. But I want to interrupt you here because we're going to take a very quick break, and I want the audience to be sort of dying to find out how the typhoid vaccine has evolved over time. We'll be back in a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the coffee table. We're having a fascinating conversation about typhoid with pediatricians Dr. Naeem Zafar and Dr. Yasir Masood. And before the break, we were talking about how our perception of typhoid has also changed with developments in the vaccine, and also the fact that it's still a disease, like Dr. Yasir was saying, it's still a disease that's still happening in developed countries. And clearly, we kind of have to keep redefining our approach to dealing with this disease that just doesn't seem to leave us alone.
You have used an excellent word, redefining our approach, because that's what I'm going to tell you in the next 5 minutes. Yes. The first vaccine, the typhoid vaccine that we used to get was a TAB vaccine,
Right.
which was dreadful. We used to get it in the schools. We had to have our arms swollen and fever for 1 to 2 days, and most of the kids would run away.
Naturally.
And the efficacy was less than 50% for 6 months.
What? So all that fuss for just a 6 months?
Because the disease was even worse.
Oh, God.
So you still had to do it. About 20 years ago, another polysaccharide vaccine, the TY vaccine, came in, which was much better. It didn't cause a lot of fever, didn't cause arm swelling, did have some side effects, obviously. The better part was it was 70% effective for 2 to 3 years.
Oh, well, that's great.
But
And
remember,
that's the vaccine that most of us have been getting.
that is the vaccine that almost all of us have been giving these vaccines in the private sector. It was
Right.
never in the EPI, it was never with the government.
Oh, all right.
And for a very simple reason, that it was still about 70% effective. All the other vaccines that we are dealing with in the EPI are over 90% effective.
Oh, okay.
And most of them are effective for the rest of the life of the person.
Oh, that's great. So the government is only has those vaccines on its list, on its program of vaccines that are super effective and are good for the rest of your life.
So it's cost effectiveness. So because those which are very effective
Yes.
for a long period of time and covering those diseases which are public health hazards.
Yes.
Unfortunately, typhoid was a public health hazard, but we didn't have a very good vaccine. So till today, whenever you see any typhoid awareness pamphlet or leaflet or anywhere, the emphasis is on hand washing, safe water, sanitation, not eating out.
Yes.
And boiling your stuff and everything.
So I guess our parents are right when they keep saying don't eat out, you'll get sick.
Exactly.
Darn. Dr. Yasir wants to pitch in. Yes, Dr. Saab.
So I just wanted to talk about the vaccine that we're using just now, which is called typhoid conjugate vaccine, TCV, as we say it. So as Dr. Naeem was saying, it has taken us almost 20-25 years to reach this stage where we now have a vaccine which is much more effective than the previous typhoid vaccines. It can be given from the age of 6 months onwards. So that's one of the major advantages of this vaccine. The previous vaccines were only being given after the age of 2 years. But now this vaccine can be given from the age of 6 months onwards.
That's excellent. And how many doses does one need? Is it just one dose?
At the moment, only one dose, and this is the protection is much longer than the previous vaccines, and the immunological response, which means the protection against typhoid, is over 90%. So if you have been given TCV, which is typhoid conjugate vaccine, the chances are that you're 90 to 95% protected against the typhoid. So this was a major breakthrough.
That's excellent. And for how long? And for how long does the effect last?
Last for about 3 to 5 years. We still need some more research and more data to know exactly when the second dose would be given. But the initial studies suggest that probably most likely the effect of one vaccine will last for about 3 to 5 years.
That's fantastic. It's really comforting to know.
That's what I said. Now that we have in the year 2018, 19 and 2021, we have a vaccine which is over 90% effective over a long period of time and can be given to younger children with very few side effects. This is the time that EPI has started to use it.
Okay.
So now, from March 2021, it will be included in the EPI and will be given along with the measles vaccine at 9 months to every kid. After this 15-day campaign ends in 12 districts of Punjab, we will have another campaign in May for the rest of the districts. But from March onwards, every child will start getting it. Now the redefining part. Now this is what is actually bugging us because even now all our messages are around hand washing. So through this program, I would like to tell that now we have an effective vaccine. If we get this vaccine, the rest of the things, their importance will go down, the vaccination will come up. Not saying that that should not be done, but then obviously we have even a better weapon against the typhoid.
Absolutely, because there are some things one can control, like boiling your water and washing your hands, but we can't control what's coming out of the tap, and you don't know what water people are using to cook with when you eat in a restaurant. And quite frankly, with children also, if somebody drank from the hose pipe and you weren't looking.
Yes, I mean, so it's always good to have a very effective vaccine. So now it adds to the armamentarium. So instead of the 10 doses that we are having, we'll have another one, 11.
Well, that's excellent. That sounds really... So if one has had the previous typhoid vaccine, let's say last year, then should one wait till the effect of that wears off?
It's a different vaccine. It's a different vaccine altogether. That was made on a different principle. And this one is a conjugated vaccine. It can be given probably a month or two or whenever you need to give it, and it needs to be given to everybody.
What does conjugated mean?
Conjugated means that it has been conjugated with another antigen to make it more effective and last longer.
Okay, so it's like a super vaccine.
So it's a super vaccine against a super bug.
Yes. So this vaccine is effective against all that typhoid, antibiotic resistant typhoid.
Yes, of course.
Oh, excellent.
And in fact, it has proven itself. In the province of Sindh, it was given in 2019. At that time, there was a very vast epidemic of XDR, which is extensive drug resistance typhoid in Sindh, and it has been able to drop that incidence to less than 20% of what it was before.
That's fantastic.
According to the preliminary studies.
Excellent.
So
well done,
it has actually done. It was given to about 10 million children in that year, and it has done wonders.
Wow, well done, Sindh. Most impressive. Yes, Dr. Yasir.
So I just wanted to say, government of Pakistan is one of the first countries in this region where the government has now included typhoid vaccine in the national program, and I think it's a step which we should all appraise. And I would request all the public and parents that just like all other vaccines, they should get their children vaccinated against typhoid. Yes. So with typhoid, I think we should try to make sure that all our children get vaccinated against typhoid, not only during these special campaigns, but also once it becomes part of the national program, so that we can get rid of this deadly disease.
Quite right. And I want to talk about vaccine hesitancy in a minute. But Dr. Yasir, as a neonatologist, what happens if babies and infants get typhoid and what happens? So I don't want to say undiagnosed, because I'm sure at some point one could diagnose it. But what would happen? What happens to kids if they get it?
So if the diagnosis is not made properly, then obviously the treatment cannot be started, and then that's where the complications can start. And we see that in slightly older children, like at the age of 1 to 2 years, because this is the group where the typhoid is not commonly suspected. But in any baby or any young child where there is a high-grade fever for no other reason, clinicians must suspect that it's possible that the child may have typhoid fever and do the appropriate test and start the appropriate treatment. Because if untreated, then the complications are very severe.
Could you tell me about some of them?
So some of the complications, like there can be perforation in the intestine, which can be very serious and sometimes need surgery and can be lethal. There can be complications in the form of pneumonia, meningitis, which is infection of the brain. And in rare cases, the patients can become very sick and unfortunately die. So even in young children where there is no other reason for a high-grade temperature or the child is not responding to the usual antibiotics, and that's where we should suspect that the child may have typhoid fever and then do the appropriate tests and start the treatment. But as we discussed that, unfortunately, most of the antibiotics that we use these days, they are becoming ineffective in treating typhoid, and we are seeing cases of multi-drug resistant and extremely drug resistant typhoid. So to avoid all those situations, the key message is that we should get our children vaccinated against typhoid. It's now available free of cost without any, previously it was only available in the private sector where you had to pay for it, but now from March onwards it will be free. So all children over the age of 9 months must be vaccinated against typhoid so that we don't have those cases with complications.
Yes, and I think it's important to kind of reiterate that this vaccine is a different vaccine from the previous typhoid vaccine. So even if you have been previously vaccinated for typhoid, it's a good idea to get this new vaccine because it's not the same thing. And you can't kind of you're not double dosing.
No, of course not. And also, the message should be very strong that this is an effective vaccine. It should be given, does not have a lot of side effects. In fact, virtually none, just as compared to the others. And it protects.
So the campaign that the government is running is for young people 15 and under. Yes. But this is a vaccine that sounds like adults should be getting also, because typhoid is not just a thing that happens to children.
Exactly. In fact, if we see the statistics, about 2/3 of all the typhoid disease people are under the age of 15, but there is 1/3 above that as well.
Oh.
So yes, it is important to treat them, and their treatment is as difficult. Unfortunately, because the EPI works for children and the government is providing it free for children right now, so maybe it will take a few months for it to be available in the market for adult population.
We are going to take a very quick break here, and we're going to come back and talk about why are 2/3 children getting typhoid and not enough adults. I'm very curious about this, Dr. Saab. Stay with us. We'll be back in a minute. welcome back to the coffee table. We're having a fascinating conversation about typhoid with Dr. Naeem Zafar and Dr. Yasser Masood, pediatricians extraordinaires. So now I want to talk about a little bit about myths around typhoid. And Dr. Saab has told me something in the break, and I want all of you guys to hear it also. So Dr. Saab, is it true that you can't catch typhoid from the swimming pool?
Yes. If the swimming pool, which is usually chlorinated,
Yes.
the typhoid germ cannot survive.
Wow.
But swimming in the streams, swimming in the ponds, yes, you will.
So swimming in untreated water, you can catch it. But all our parents would get us the jab before swimming season.
So that was an opportunity for a summer disease. So people would get it.
Dr. Saab, is it also true that, well, I don't know if it's true or not, can you catch typhoid from, let's say, fruit that's been grown using dirty water to water it?
I mean, you can expand your imagination to anywhere. But remember the basic, it's a fecal-oral route.
Yes.
So feces has to be mixed with your food.
Yuck.
Either underwater through the pipes, or in the surface water, which is unsafe, or through without washing your hands, through your maids, through your servants, through your cooks who have not been very careful, or through the restaurants, whom we already know how good they are.
Yes, or not, as it were. So, Dr. Saab, I know that the Pakistan Pediatric Association has been working with the government on many vaccination campaigns. And one problem that is common is that of vaccine hesitancy and vaccine refusal. So could you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Well, actually, it stems from a very simple fact that people don't want jabs.
Right.
Simple.
So is it a sort of needle phobia kind of situation?
Everything around it. So people don't want the jabs, they don't want, and there is mistrust with the government. That has always been there.
Yes.
So all the time, while we have been vaccinating, people think that we are trying to sterile the people. So there is the population explosion stops. Whereas, unfortunately, even today, we are one of the most productive citizens.
Quite right. Our growth rate is, flourishing.
Yes. And also, some people say it is un-Islamic. They have added some pig things into it or whatever. So these are all anti-vaxxers.
Yes.
Unfortunately, all of these claims are unfounded. So we, as pediatricians, we are the frontline workers, as we call it.
Yes.
We are the ones who receive the disease. We know how bad it is.
And from the most vulnerable patient that you could possibly have.
So we are the ones who are the best spokesperson.
Yes.
Fortunately, as of today, the people listen to us.
Yay!
So that is where the Pediatric Association comes in as a spokesperson for a very good intervention by the government, hand in hand. So that's what we are trying to do. We are happy that the expanded program of immunization, that the government has this time shaken hands with Pediatric Association, with the association, the Pakistan Medical Association, with the Association of Family Physicians, so that the people are more aware for typhoid vaccination, are more aware of the disease, and most importantly, more aware of the correct things about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there are so many myths and there are so many misinformations around it.
Absolutely.
And I'm not talking about the anti-vaxxers. I'm talking about the people who really want to get the vaccine, but they have a lot of doubts in their minds. So that is where we come in to clear those doubts.
So, super doctors. Yes, Dr. Yasser.
So I just wanted to say, it's probably not just the jabs that the people are afraid of, that they don't want injections, because this is what we've seen with polio. Polio, there's no injection involved, just the drops. So not just the fear of injections or jabs. I think there's so much, as Dr. Naeem said, so many myths in the society as a whole against vaccination. People think, so a vaccine which has been approved by World Health Organization, it goes through so many different safety nets that it's not possible that it will have unwanted side effects.
And Dr. Yasser, it's not possible to have a vaccine with no side effects. So I feel like a lot of times people are nervous if a vaccine has a side effect, then they kind of see it as an indication that there's something dangerous about the vaccine.
If we think about the disease itself, for example, talk about pneumonia and meningitis and
or typhoid,
the complications, or typhoid, the complications of the disease are such that the minor side effects like low-grade temperature or some pain for a few hours is probably nothing if you compare it with the outcomes if you have that serious infection like pneumonia or meningitis or typhoid, because you could end up in the hospital for so many days. You could have serious complications, and people die of these diseases even in this day and age.
Yes.
But I'll give you an example, not just typhoid. Obviously, the typhoid vaccination is relatively new. The meningitis vaccine, Haemophilus, in early 2000 or in late 90s, there were thousands of cases of pneumonia and meningitis, children dying all the time of Haemophilus influenza. But as soon as the Haemophilus influenza vaccination came, the incidence of pneumonia and meningitis because of Haemophilus influenza dropped dramatically. And nowadays, those children who have been vaccinated against these diseases, we hardly see those children on our wards. The vaccines are effective. They do work.
Yes, they work. And the fact that there are growth, if our growth rate is this high, then maybe, we are doing something right with vaccinations and more kids are surviving.
Of course. And also let me give you an Islamic perspective.
Yes.
Sometimes people say that in Islam it is unjustified to inflict pain.
Yes.
But I have a hadith where the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that if you are going to inflict a small pain to prevent a big pain, it is totally justifiable.
Absolutely.
So there is absolutely no religious contraindication to vaccination. There is absolutely no medical contraindication to vaccination. There is absolutely no social contraindication to vaccination, and it should be given. And yes, about the effects, I think the best thing that we can say is that our mortality rates have improved, our morbidity rates have improved, and more importantly, the children who fall less sick are able to enjoy more time in school, understand better, learn better, become more productive citizens.
Absolutely. And
so it's economics.
Quite right. So I have just sort of one last question. It's about the typhoid shedding. So that can carry on for several years even after one has recovered from typhoid?
Several months at least, yes. So it is not necessary in every person. But then there are, as we call them, typhoid carriers.
Yes.
So these are the persons who can carry these. And the only important thing is, unfortunately, we don't test for them a lot. But if they are into food handling business, that's where they can cause disease. So it's always better to, again, hand washing, safe water are the effective principles there.
So if one has recovered from typhoid, would it be a good idea to sort of have a typhoid test maybe a month or two after recovery, just to check if you still don't have it?
That is a test from the stool sample.
Right.
Because it is shedding in the stools. The person is perfectly all right.
Okay.
The immunity is otherwise fine. So that can be done. But we usually, in Pakistan, we are not doing it on a routine basis. No.
And also, if we observe the precautionary measures of the washing and all of that, then even if you are shedding typhoid, it should be all right.
It should be all right.
Yeah.
That's why we're not doing it.
Great, that's excellent. So, thank you so much, Dr. Saab, and thank you so much, Dr. Yasir, for sort of coming over the internet to talk to us about typhoid. It has been a really, really edifying conversation, and I think that the takeaway is that this vaccine sounds great, and if you get one jab and it keeps you protected for up to 5 years, for more than 90% efficacy, it's fantastic. I think my only caveat is that I'd rather not have it in school because it's scary.
Well, not exactly. People have got it in the schools, and it actually works better.
Really?
Because peer pressure. Every child is getting it, so I might as well get it as well.
And also I feel like this is one of those things where
then I'm brave enough to get it.
And it's also one of those things where a lot of parents don't have access to private healthcare. So in government schools and in lots of schools, if government teams just go in and vaccinate everybody, then they'll know that all of these kids are, protected and they're safe. And I'm hoping that we can then kind of move to adult vaccinations as well, because
unfortunately, adult vaccination is not a norm. It's not.
Exactly.
So, but yes, definitely it should be given.
So if you are an adult, consider getting the vaccine for yourself. Please vaccinate your kiddos. Be safe. Our water is not great, but at least there are medical avenues that medical options that we can take to protect ourselves. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Happy Tika time. We'll see you next time on the coffee table. Bye now.